Hello and welcome. My name's Jason Newland. This is going to be a phobia recording. Yeah, a phobia recording. So, I don't know whether to focus on a particular phobia or just generalize it. I'll decide at some point during the recording. So please only listen when you can safely close your eyes. This isn't a sleep recording, although you might find yourself falling asleep, because apparently my voice is not the most exciting voice. It's not a different kind of stimulation maybe, but doesn't apparently get people feeling wide awake. Oh well, I'll put up with it. I don't mind. So, okay, it's gonna be a phobia of snakes. Let's do a phobia of snakes. So, of course, I don't know where the phobia, if you've got a phobia of snakes, where it comes from. I'll put snake phobia in the title, so don't worry. So I guess only people with snake phobias would listen. The first question is, what's the likelihood of you actually seeing a snake? Now, if you live in the country where I live, it's really unlikely. It's about as likely as seeing an elephant. You know, it's just not likely to happen. I mean, we do have snakes, grass snakes and adders and things like that, but I think I've only ever seen one in the wild once when I was a kid. I say in the wild, but outside. But my friend downstairs, he did have two snakes. And that was the first time, because I hated snakes. But from I did have a phobia of snakes. I don't have it anymore. I have a healthy wariness, because I think it's good to be wary of, like, it's still, you need to be wary of something like a snake, or maybe you don't have to be scared of a lion, but if you see a lion coming towards you, then you need to be active. You need to be aware of the situation. I'm not scared of crocodiles, but it doesn't mean that if I see a crocodile, I'm just going to go up and start patting it on the head. So, if I was on a boat and I saw a shark poking its nose up out of the water, I wouldn't go to give it a kiss. I'm not scared of sharks, but in that scenario, I'd have to kind of, hopefully my brain would work. So, don't be picking up snakes if you don't know anything about snakes. But then you could say that same as, like, don't pick up a dog or a cat, unless you sort of know how to handle them. Or a monkey. I was going to say giraffe, but I don't even know if you could pick a giraffe up when it's first born, because they're probably the size of a horse, aren't they, when they're first born? I don't know, very tall. Blimey. I think it's the tallest animal I've ever seen. I had a funny incident happen though, because I went to the zoo. This is years ago, blimey. 16 years ago, 15 years ago. and no, probably 16, 17 years ago. So I went to the zoo, and they were cleaning the animals. So they had elephants, and then they had giraffes, kind of within the same kind of area, and they were hosing them down and stuff. And there was a big party of school kids were sort of watching, and I think they were feeding the elephants, or I don't know, something like that. And so I'm looking at the other side because it's on this bridge, so you could look down. So I was looking at other stuff, and suddenly I hear all these I hear the teachers laughing, and I hear the kids laughing. So I'm like, okay. My trousers fallen down again, but they hadn't. So I turned around to see what's going on, and there was two giraffes, and one was getting it on with the other one. And it was just very funny because it was so inappropriate, but in the same side, like, it's just animals doing what animals do. But it was very funny. Um, anyway, that's not really relevant to the story, is it? He started off talking about snake phobias and ended up talking about giraffes making love and in a zoo. Like, exhibitionists as well. Like, huh? No. Well, yeah, but no, that's not what I was kind of going to talk about. So, part of how I do what I do and why I do what I do is to try and take away some of the seriousness of something like a phobia. Because, what does it get you? What does it give you? What benefits are there? If the benefit is to keep you safe, then you don't need to have a phobia of it to keep you safe. Seeing a picture of a snake, you don't need anything to keep you safe from a picture. This isn't Jumanji. Is it Jumanji? Jumanji? No, it's not gonna pop out of the book. You don't need to keep safe from a video of a snake or seeing snakes on television. You don't, you haven't got to feel safe for that because you are safe. So the idea that a phobic response can be created just by thinking about something, that's not useful. How is that helpful to you? It's just not, is it? I mean, generally, realistically, it's seriously unuseful. So, I guess it's putting it into perspective in a sense of, you know, when is it useful to be concerned about snakes? There is a time, if a snake, I guess just generally, if you're travelling through India or through a country where there's snakes that can be poisonous, then yeah, you be careful. You see one, you keep away from it. But it's not something that we need to think about, is it? Like on a regular basis. I don't even think regularly about things I like, never mind things I don't like. There's a few things I like to do in life, but I'm not thinking about it when I'm not doing it. Well, generally. I suppose that's the benefit of just focusing on what you're doing when you're doing it, and then moving on. Perhaps you could change the phobia, swap it with something else. What would be something that you'd be happy to be scared of, that you're never going to do? Like, for me, bungee jumping. I'm scared to bungee jump. I'm never going to bungee jump. It will never happen, ever, ever. Never going to happen. So I'm happy. I'm quite happy to have a bungee jumping phobia. I wouldn't say it's a phobia. It's a bungee jump. You know, it's just something I'd be scared to do, but I'm never going to do, and I'd never see any reason or point to doing it. In the same way, I wouldn't jump out of a plane. There's certain things I just wouldn't do. Not because, yeah, partly because I'm scared to do them, but logically, it's normal to be scared to do stuff like that. It's like, what's the point? What benefit is there? I understand some people get benefit by overcoming fears and stuff like that, but I wouldn't see that as a benefit for me personally, because I'm never going to do it. I'm never going to do it. It's as simple as that. I'm never going to ride on the back of an alligator. That's just not going to happen. I'm not going to swim with sharks. That's not going to happen. Hopefully, you know, not on purpose anyway. So, in that situation, I would be scared. And again, some people get something from that. But what could you be scared of? What could you change? What could you transfer that phobia to? It might sound like a weird idea, and it's possibly something that you've never really thought about before. So you can make up... You all right, Vinny? Vinny, my little Jack Russell here, is... it looked like he was about to just sit down and stare at me. But I think it's time we're going to go out again in a little while. Aren't we, Vin? Eh? Early start today, 6:30 this morning. Wasn't it? Yeah, 6:30. But unfortunately... Hey, don't growl at me, little monkey. Unfortunately, he saw a dog that he didn't like and he barked, which is way too early. Way too early to be barking. Wasn't it? Eh? Eh? Yes. So, think of something really absurd that you would be scared to do. Like, really absurd. It could be something like eating the largest... I don't know. I don't know what it could be. It could be building the biggest sandcastle in history, digging the biggest trench, you could be phobic against drinking nothing but, I don't know. What would be a weird thing to drink? Bovril. Drinking nothing but Bovril. So you could have a phobia of travelling through a desert and drinking nothing but Bovril, which is the least hydrating drink I would say there is. I mean, it's like Marmite but with liquid. So maybe you can think of an idea for yourself, something that you could be, that's never going to happen. So it can be something like jumping out of a plane, or it could be swimming with sharks, something you've never been bothered about before. But maybe you can have that phobia because you're never going to do it. Have a phobia of like falling into a volcano. Unlikely it's going to happen. I mean, if you're going to be like balancing on the edges of a volcano, yeah, maybe it might happen, but I say edges, I don't know how, are they thin? Do volcanoes have thin edges? I don't know. I've never been on a volcano. I'm never going to be on a volcano. The closest thing I'm ever going to be to a volcano is watching it on telly. So what would be an absolutely ridiculous phobia that you can have to replace the snake phobia that you used to have? What could be a nice replacement? I think part of the snake phobia with humans is there's that whole kind of, with a lot of people, is they've had a bad reputation, haven't they? Snakes have had a bad reputation throughout history. Um, a lot of kind of historical, a lot of religious stories that have contained snakes, and they've never been good guys, have they? You never really. How often do you see a snake as the star of the show? I mean, it depends. Yeah, I mean an actual snake, not a person that. Yeah, an actual snake. Mind you, the Jungle Book, I quite liked that snake because it was hypnotic. But yeah, ooh ooh ooh, I wanna be like you. Ooh ooh. We used to have someone at work, and he just copied everyone. He copied everyone. It's almost like he didn't have his own identity, and he wanted. I guess he wanted to fit in and stuff, but when anyone said something, he'd just copy it, and so it became so obvious that in the end, whenever he started doing it, whenever he'd start copying someone, we'd all stop working, turn around, start dancing and singing, ooh, 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 I want to be like you, ooh, ooh, I want to walk like you, talk like you, and then we just turn back and carry on working, because it's in the factory. Um, to this day, I don't think he even knew what was going on. I still don't think he understood that we was subtly trying to subtly. Do some people pronounce that subtly because it's got a B in it? It's subtle, not subtle. Ah. So on the snake phobia thing that you had, what is it? So if you think of a snake, snaky, snake. What? Just imagine one in your mind. What is it on a level of like? Ooh, is it like a 10? Is it a 50? Is it 100? Is it 0? Where is it on a scale? I mean, how high does that scale of like absolute? Let's say not pleasure, non-pleasure. How high is it at the moment? How high was it before you started listening to me blabbling on about stuff? How high was it then? Before I started being, some would argue, a bit random. Don't worry, this is what I do. It might seem strange if you're listening to me for the first time. If this is just what I do, this isn't anything unusual. It's unusual, but it's not unusual for me because it's how my brain works. So, unfortunately, and because I have to deal with it, I share it with others. That's my punishment. So where is it? What scale is it? Are you still bothered the same way as you was? So what we can do, imagine someone that you really like a celebrity, someone that you really, okay, someone that you fancy, maybe even someone that you find very attractive, or just perhaps somebody that you've you've always wanted to meet. So if you saw them, and let's say you were staying in a hotel and you see them in the hotel lobby and you think, what the heck? Why are they there? How, they're a superstar. Why? Or whatever it is, you want to go up and say hello. And you see that they've got a snake around their neck. They've got a pet snake. What do? Do you still want to go and say hello? Do you still... What? How does that change? Do you know what I mean? How is that a little bit different? Realising that actually there's motivation there. Because you want to go and... You want to meet this person. Someone maybe you've wanted to meet for decades even. Since you was a child. And you want to meet... It's like, oh, I'd love to meet this person. But they have a snake wrapped around their neck as a pet, of course. Plus, it's a good opener, isn't it? Excuse me, I don't know if you noticed. I hope not to disturb you, but I just want to let you know there's a snake around your neck. It's an opener, isn't it? It's an opening line. I did that to a neighbour the other day. I saw my neighbour go out in his dressing gown and get in his car. So he rode up the road and turned round and started coming back. And I kind of got in front of the car and said, stop. And he said, what? I said, I think you forgot to get dressed. And I think it was a bit too early in the morning, so I think he got annoyed a little bit. But I thought it was funny. I'm a delivery person, thought it was funny. So, but I just thought it was just... I knew what he was doing because he was just going to park the car around the back. But it was like, are you on the way to work? You've forgotten to get dressed. That was a bit more of a miss than a hit, that one, but it don't matter. But it's an opener, isn't it? Maybe not a very good opener. Another thing, so say if you won the lottery, and to get the money, you had to walk through a shop full of snakes, behind in glass cases, but you had to walk all the way through a big, long... It's not an abattoir, is it? I don't know, ovary, whatever they're called, that snakes live in. But you walk all the way through that in order to collect the money. Would you do it? Motivation. So it's a feeling, one feeling versus another feeling. That feeling that you had before versus the feeling of being extremely wealthy with life-changing money. You could take it a bit further. Say, okay, once you get there, they say you can have the money, but if you look in the small print, you do have to stroke a snake. But you don't have to do it now. The money will stay here. All you got to do is stroke the snake. Come back as often as you want. So that sounded like there was more coming in that sentence, isn't it? Come back as often as you want. And no, that was the end. That was a full stop. So come back as often as you want. That would have been better, wouldn't it? So you can keep visiting there every day with those millions and millions in a big briefcase or whatever money comes in. But you're not allowed that money. So you've walked through the aquarium. Is it aquarium? Avarium? I think a variant might be the word. So you walk through all these snakes on each side. Now you're not even thinking about those anymore. That's not even an issue. You're thinking about touching the snake. But you're also thinking about the money. Yet, previous to this situation, you would not have wanted to have walked. In fact, you wouldn't have walked all the way through there with those snakes in cases, glass cases either side. You wouldn't have done that. But now that's almost like it's not even relevant anymore. So you walk into the end, you got the person there. So what if the person is there is the person that you really have always wanted to see, always wanted to meet? A childhood hero, maybe your favourite singer, your favourite actor. Maybe it's someone that you're secretly in love with. I don't know. It could be anything. What would you do? Would you stroke the snake? Is this about benefits? What would you do for the benefits? What benefits outweigh or more stronger? Because it's emotions ultimately, isn't it? So what emotions outweigh the old emotions? So that feeling as you stand there, maybe there's a big table full of cash, maybe it's not in a suitcase, it's just a big massive table full of cash, like you see in those you see it in movies, don't you, sometimes, where they go into a bank and a vault and it's just on a like a crate or a pallet just full of cash, millions and millions. But you can't even take one banknote until you stroke that snake. So it's kind of like, okay, what would you do? What do you imagine yourself doing? Do you imagine yourself like, no, keep the money, I don't need money? Or do you see yourself motivated? Maybe you start to think, perhaps the idea of changing phobias is not a bad idea. Find something you're never ever going to do, ever, in your life. So have a phobia of walking on the moon. When are you ever going to walk on the moon? That's a nice phobia to have, as far as it's never going to affect you. It's something you're never going to have to do. Travelling through space, digging down to the Earth's core. It's something that you're very unlikely to ever do. So having a phobia for that, walking on the moon, that's not a bad phobia to have if you swap it over. Especially if it makes you rich. But to be fair, even better than money is to have that freedom. Because once one phobia goes, the others seem to just flip away, like, I was going to say bingos, but dominoes. Where'd they come up with bingos? Bingo cards. I mean, bingo cards are just flat, aren't they? That makes no sense. So it weakens it, though. It's the old analogy, isn't it? Like, if you've got a bit of steel, You can bend it, keep bending it, keep bending it. Eventually it will just snap. When I say bend it, I'm not talking about me bending it, but you know, sort of probably machinery. But eventually it will snap because it becomes weaker and weaker the more it's bent. So that thing that was super solid is now just gone. It's like accidentally sometimes. Because listening to this, you might have thought, oh, I just listened to this. This is going to be, especially after first hearing me, you might have thought, oh, this is just ridiculous. He's just talking crap. He's talking a bunch of crap. It sounds like he's on drugs or something. I'm not. I'm on medication, but not on drugs. I'm on medication. Don't worry, you're safe. But then sometimes listening to something like this can have almost like an accidental benefit, because your mind changes in a way. It can change the way that you view yourself and the way you think about things. And those images and maybe those little movie clips that you used to play in the past about snakes seem to have become a little bit muffled. So I've got videotapes. I say videotapes. I've got video that I made, because I used to make videos on YouTube, MySpace first, then YouTube, nearly 20 years ago. And some of those videos are just worn out. Even though it's digital, it's just terrible picture. But at the time, it wasn't that bad. And it's a little bit like fax, or not fax, a photocopy is, I don't know if people use photocopies anymore, but you do the first photocopy is a really good picture, but then when you take a photocopy of a photocopy, then a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy, eventually it's a terrible picture. And it's a little bit like that with memories sometimes. Because our memories get muddled together anyway. That's been proven by psychology experts, that even our memories aren't exact or precise. Which is the same meaning, really, isn't it? I don't know why I said it twice. But how you view yourself, how has it changed just in this last little bit of time that we've spent together? This quality time of nonsense. It goes back to the first question, like, what benefit is there to have any kind of emotional reaction to snakes? Where's the benefit? How's it improving your life? How's it improving your day to day? Is it making you rich? Is it improving your health? So how often would you need to go back to that table walking past the snakes in the glass cases that you're not even noticing anymore, how long would it take? How often would you need to visit looking at that big pile of money before you were able to stroke that snake? How fed up would you get, keep visiting and leaving? Especially when you think about what you could do with that money and how you could help others. So eventually you say, okay, I'll stroke the snake. And you touch it. I'll touch the snake. I did. My friend had a snake. I touched it. It was alright. Didn't excite me. Didn't repulse me. I was neutral. You know, I touched it. I didn't suddenly want to start collecting snakes. You know, every time I see a snake on TV, I don't do handstands. You know, I'm not that excited by it, but just, I touched one. Yeah. It's just a snake. But I didn't care about it anymore because, you know, those snakes were in my friend's flat downstairs. They weren't always in the case. Often they were just, he was holding them and just got used to it. Almost didn't care, really. Ah, okay. He loved them. I didn't really get that. I didn't really understand. But then he didn't understand why. What is it, Vinny? I was only rubbing your tummy. You're such a wally sometimes. I was rubbing your tummy. You should be in a good mood. You've had treats. You've been out. Haven't you? Eh? I think it's a bit too warm for him today. I think it's cloudy outside, but it is still fairly warm. So yeah, it's kind of one of those things. It's amazing how easily our minds change. I know there's this whole thing, well, it takes ages to change, all that stuff. But actually, sometimes it can be instantly. I remember there was this female that worked in an office, and I took a dislike to her. I don't know why. She seemed, I don't know, there's something about her I didn't like, and she just didn't come across as a particularly nice person. There's no real reason for that. And then we had the annual ball, the company annual ball, and I was seated next to her. She was lovely. Really nice person. We had a good laugh, and we just hadn't talked, we hadn't spoken to each other before. She was in a different team to me. There was no reason for us to really communicate. But I would see her walk past and stick her finger up at me. No, she didn't. She didn't do that. But I mean, I kind of regretted putting chewing gum in her hair after that. No, I didn't. I didn't put chewing gum in her hair. I didn't. But it's just how that where I felt changed. Oh, another time, when I worked in a call centre, I was talking to this man, a customer, and he was an absolute arse all the way through the recording. Grumpy, miserable, which is, I guess, another word for grumpy, isn't it? But he didn't want to answer any of the questions. And with car insurance, there's a lot of questions. And he was awkward all the way through. And then right at the end, I asked him if you've got any medical conditions, because that's part of the questionnaire. He said, yeah, he's been diagnosed with Parkinson's, only just diagnosed. As soon as he said that, our relationship changed. And we were just, for something changed, just like we got on. We were laughing, and we got married last year. No, we didn't. But yeah, it was like really, it's like completely changed. His attitude towards me changed. My attitude towards him changed. Instantly, like bang, done. So changes don't have to take ages and ages and ages. In fact, there's ways of changing something a lot quicker than the length of this recording, but I think it's worth having a bit of fun along the way, you know? So if you've got two images, put one next to each other. One's an image of walking on the moon, the other image is of a snake. You just have to choose one. Choose one that you're not bothered by. Choose one that you would not do. So it's not like you're bothered by a picture of someone walking on the moon, because ultimately, you know, what does it matter? It's just a picture, and you've probably seen it many times over the years. But the idea of walking on the moon yourself is not something that you're going to want to do. Or you could go even sillier with it. Forget the moon bit. Imagine trying to... Yeah. So... I'm just thinking of a helicopter made of cheese. So trying to take off in a helicopter made of cheese, would you do it? So if someone said to, I know it's ridiculous, but it's supposed to be. If someone said, oh, we're going to take you in a helicopter. I say, okay. Helicopter ride, and you walk up to, and you're like, wait a minute. That looks like it's made of cheese. And they laugh and say, yeah, it is. It's a new prototype. And you say, but it's made of cheese. They said, yeah. All of it. I said, yeah. Apart from the engine. Unfortunately, the engine, it just kept melting. So we couldn't have a cheesy engine. But everything else is cheese. And the good thing is, when you're inside, if you're a little bit hungry, you can just take a little bit off, have a little bite. Some people bring their own bread, their own toaster. I said, what about the propellers? Yeah, propellers are made of cheese. Would you get into that? I mean, I'd get into it, but I wouldn't want to go up in it. I'd want to have a little look. I mean, how could you not want to have a little look? But would you get up? Would you go up in that helicopter if it was made all of cheese? Or if you were about to go on a big cruise and you got there, you got to the ferry or wherever it was that the ships are, and you saw your ship, and instead of being like the normal ships, It was a huge, huge piece of paper shaped into a boat. Same size as a ship, but just one huge piece of paper. And it was floating on the water. And they said, "That's your ship. Let me show you to your cabin." It's a cabin made of cheese, by anyway. And it is. So, how did you know? Would you get on that ship? Some may argue this is getting a bit absurd. What's this got to do with not caring about snakes? But I just thinking, if you think of an absurd situation that you wouldn't be worried about because it's not going to happen anyway. I think of another thing. Let's think. I can't think. There's lots of things, but I mean, I don't want to get too caught up in absurdities. But what would you choose? Maybe a train made of matchsticks. Matchsticks do still exist, I think. So a train made of matchsticks. An oven made of matchsticks. Wow, that wouldn't be a good idea, would it? Get to use it once. Self-lighting. So when you think about snakes, what's changed? Be honest, are you bothered by it, really? Bothered by a snake? Ooh, a snake, ooh. Is it? That might come across as a bit mocking, but I guess it was supposed to. Not in a bad way, just in a mocking way. In a way where it sounds like someone's doing a washing up down there, but they're doing it angrily. An angry washer-upper. Do you ever get that? You hear that and they're just smashing the plates down. Which is funny because only one person lives down there. Maybe it's a month's worth of washing up. I did that once. I had about 20 plates, loads of stuff. In the end, I had to wash them in the bath. To soak them in the bath because they were just solid. Everything on them was solid. Now I've only got one plate. 2 dishes, 1 plate, 2 spoons, 1 knife, 1 fork. Which means I can't really get behind in the washing up. You may wonder, what's that got to do with not caring about snakes, the washing up, and how many plates I've got? I don't know. It might have something to do with it. I mean, this is like, let me bore your phobia away, so it is. That's kind of what it is. Did I mention that? Let me bore your phobia away at the beginning. I don't know if I did, sorry. Yeah. So this is when I just talk about a phobia and I just waffle on. I've actually got a podcast specifically for this, believe it or not. Oh, yes, I do. I really, really do. I can't believe it, but I do. I might have some ice cream. Ice cream. I might. That's a good time about it. That's a good time. That's a good thing about this time of year, because I like to have the odd cornetto, probably once a day. That might be a little bit too often, but yeah, I like to do like a little bit of ice cream. I do also need to be careful of my sugar intake, but I don't think there's any sugar in ice cream. And the cone is chocolate, so there's no sugar in chocolate either, I don't think, so it should be fine. I don't know about the cone though. The cone, the cornetto cone, I don't know if there's any sugar in that, but the rest of it should be fine. And the strawberry sauce, well, that's strawberries, so they're good for you, aren't they? So I imagine the sauce is just made of pure strawberries. Perhaps melted strawberries, because when the strawberries melt, they go all gooey, don't they? Or that's more when they dissolve. If they were frozen, or if you tread on them, they go gooey as well. How do you feel different to the way you felt before you decided to listen to my squeaky voice talking maybe about random things throughout this recording? Perhaps not as serious as you thought it was going to be, possibly. But how do you feel though? That's the thing. That's the bottom line, as far as I'm concerned. Regardless of what I do or say, it's about how you feel different. How you can notice those changes within yourself. And perhaps you're surprised at those changes. Maybe. Just notice how relaxed you feel. And how you realize that your mind changes so easily. And once you realize that you're no longer bothered by snakes, you're no longer bothered by them. It's that simple. And you can relax. Really, really relax. Let go completely. Dissolve. Completely. And maybe you've noticed, or maybe you haven't noticed, that your mind has slowed down. Your breathing has slowed down and become deeper naturally. Your body is relaxed. Maybe you've noticed, or maybe you haven't noticed, that you're feeling good. You're feeling calm. Perhaps those parts of your body, there are parts of your body that feel pleasure, and perhaps that pleasure can spread. And you can feel that sense of release, not just in your muscles, but in your bones, in your eyes, your face, and your shoulders and your back, your chest and your stomach, your neck, hands and fingers, arms, your hips, legs, feet and toes, all the way from the top of your head, moving down your spine, moving through your nervous system to every single part of your body, calming, loosening, relaxing. Peaceful. And that brings us to the end of this recording. So please remember to be kind to yourself, because you do deserve to be happy. And be gentle with yourself, because you deserve to feel safe. And you can listen to this as many times as you need to. And every time you do listen, you become more relaxed. And your mind will open up and absorb more of the positivity. Lots of love. Bye.